But we only need me. Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. I have to read off of my phone because I don't have all this memorized. So I want to say welcome to the Marketing, Automation, and AI Meetup. We're happy to have you here. I'm Sharon DeCaro, and some of you may not know what I do. I'm a brand designer, web developer, and I also teach ChatGPT, and I also design books, covers, and LinkedIn profile banners, and a whole lot of things. So if you need anything, hit me up.
She designed my book cover.
Yeah. And so now I would handle. Oh, I also wanted to give a shout out to my co-host Fernando Labastida. He's winding his tour down with us. And next month he's speaking, and he's got a killer presentation. And that will be, then the meetup will be solely mine. And I appreciate him. He knows that. And then I have to handle a few housekeeping items. The meetup starts at 6:30, and we network from 6:30 to 7. The presentation starts at 7, and we go from 7 to 8 with Q&A. So you can ask Russ here all the questions you want. And then we have a hard stop at 8:30. I want to say thank you to the Capital Factory. They give us this room for free. They're amazing. And if you're interested in learning about being at the Capital Factory, the center of gravity for entrepreneurs in Austin, you can go to their website, or you can speak to Elijah Singer. He's our liaison. And if you parked in the building, I have discounted voucher tickets for $8. Parking. Let's see what else I got going here. There's a lot to memorize. And then, okay, so now I'm going to talk about our speaker. Our speaker is Russ Somers. Here he is. Well, we're not clapping yet, because I want to read his bio. He leads marketing for Quantified.AI, an AI-driven flight simulator for sales teams. With over 20 years of experience in marketing B2B SaaS products, Russ and his team, I can't read this. Russ and his team use, and they've been experimenting AI for years. When he's not leading the charge at Quantified, he trains marketing teams on how to use AI to scale their efforts. Now, in this session, Russ will show you how to create a GPT team using role-specific custom GPTs to triple your marketing input. And trust us, this is more than just faster content creation. Russ, wait, what is this? Sorry. Well, Russ is going to really just rock you. Okay, I got it here. It's gonna rock my world. It's like,
I hope that part was written on the phone. I don't think it was.
no, look, it's not written on the phone. I'm trying to read it. Okay, well, what Russ is going to dive into is why custom GPTs are a game changer compared to ChatGPT or Claude. He's also going to dive into the basic advanced strategies for creating custom GPTs that fit your team and the 3 key GPT, what is this? Something roles, team roles. I don't wanna, I don't know how, and I don't know what to do. And then, I'm just gonna let him, because there's a line that's cut off here, and let me see if I can get it. And then, what he also does is he's created GPT teammates that need their own virtual coffee, which is wild. Seriously. He told me all about this. You'll laugh. And prior to Quantified, Russ was a CMO at Litho. He holds leadership roles as VP of marketing of several companies. And he's a graduate of UT, holds a BA and an MBA from UT Austin. And without further ado, now we can clap. Russ Somers!
Thank you. And thank you guys for being here tonight. This is going to be fun. I know I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I know lots of people are feeling lots of different ways about stuff, and it's okay. Today I just want to focus on, hey, how we can use this to make our lives, our work a little better, and like I said, 3x our output. And it's super cool to be here because I've actually spent about 12 years of my life on this blog. The first company I was VP marketing at in Vodo was over at 70, over across the street on across 7th, I think. And then Trendkite was just down the block at 8th and Brazos. So between those two companies, which are two of the more successful ones I've had the good fortune to be part of, I've spent about 12 years on this block, and so it, in a lot of ways, just kind of feels like home. But what I'm going to talk about today is making a marketing GPTeam, which is what I've taken to calling it, because I make up words, it's what marketers do. And there's sort of 4 things I'm mainly going to cover. First off, what is a custom GPT? Secondly, how to create one, right? Because we want to make one, we want to play with it. The third is some sort of advanced concepts for getting the most out of it. But then fourth, I really want to evangelize here the value of play. And we'll get into it, but play is really important in this stuff because there are really, maybe Ethan Mollick, a couple others, but there really aren't AI experts in the world, I don't believe. We're all exploring, we're all discovering. A glorious set of Tinker toys has been dumped out for us in the form of ChatGPT, in the form of Midjourney, in the form of Claude, and we're all playing with them, but even the people that built them don't always know how to get the most out of it. So we are discovering, and therefore, you will find that despite the fact I am here speaking, I am shockingly ignorant on many topics. You know, like, I know you can do something like a custom GPT with Claude projects. Haven't delved into it yet, haven't had time, because I actually have a real job. But there was a time when I didn't, which is when I started doing this. I got laid off from Litho, great company, treated me really well, loved the people. For about a year, I did freelance consulting, fractional CMO work. And during that time, that just so happened to be when the ChatGPT explosion was happening. And so I was fortunate in a lot of ways that I had time to play and discover and learn. And so that has helped me a lot, and I still try to carve out that play time to discover and learn. In terms of what a custom GPT is, it's just, and you probably know this, so if I'm saying anything that you guys are like, of course we know that, Russ, just bear with me, we'll get to the fun stuff. It's nothing more than really a pre-prompted instance of ChatGPT that's pervasive. So for example, if I wanted to build a therapist, which I've done, you might start by prompting ChatGPT, you're the world's best behavioral therapist, you're skilled in cognitive behavioral therapy, you're used to working with high performers and executives and people with imposter syndrome. Totally not me, totally me. Whatever, right? And you would write all that prompt because we always, when we're working with ChatGPT, and you probably know this, you want to sort of set that context. Who do you want ChatGPT to be? What do you want it to be an expert in? How do you want it to behave? How do you want it to talk, etc.? The problem, of course, is if you're using ChatGPT a lot and for some somewhat repetitive tasks, you find yourself doing that, 16 times a day, and the 16th time you type, you are the world's best whatever, you get really freaking tired of it, let's be honest. So a custom GPT is nothing more than a way of sort of retaining that baseline instruction set that sets its character, sets its context, etc. And it's usually focused on a specific area. You know, the narrower the better, typically, is what I find. Your mileage may vary. And so the reason you want one is kind of obvious in that it just saves you a lot of time in prompting and gets you more consistent output. Also, before I move forward to the next slide, I want to warn you, some of these slides suffer from a disease that a designer like Sharon might call texty bulletitis. And the reason for that is I didn't really set this out to be a speaking presentation. I was training our internal team at Quantified, because despite being an AI-driven solution and a fantastic one for sales teams, not everybody on the team was really familiar with doing some of this stuff hands-on. So I sort of trained the full company on this stuff. I built this presentation to walk people through as a lunch and learn. Other people started asking me, hey, I heard you've got this presentation, would you share it? So I've shared it with a couple hundred friends at this point. I'll share it with y'all when I'm done, by the way. I'll work with you guys to figure out how to share it with y'all. But open access, this is all no secret stuff you should have access to. And so I didn't really think a lot about design in doing it, and I apologize in advance for that. There were sort of 3 levels, and I came to realize this when I was talking with a guy named Jeremy Utley, who's a Stanford professor that has a great AI podcast. There's really sort of 3 levels to custom GPTs that I've found anyway. And the first is the most common one. We talk about content creation, repetitive tasks. Those are the things you could do, you know how to do. You just don't wanna, right? And I'll walk through an example of I don't wanna do this. The second level, though, and this is when I started to go, oh my gosh, there's so much here than I thought, y'all. When I discovered the second type of use case, which is I don't know how. So, you know, an example would be you want an on-demand subject matter expert for a particular area, you know, like a revenue operations expert or something like that. And then the third level is I don't know what to do, because remembering that I don't have imposter syndrome at all, there are many times that I find myself questioning, am I doing the right thing? Do I know what to do next? And one of the more difficult things about executive leadership roles is you can't always betray that uncertainty in casual conversation. I don't know how we're going to hit the lead plan. I can't say that. And so creating some mentors and guides that you can have those trusted conversations with to help you figure out what to do when you don't know what to do. That's the third one. So 3 cases. I don't wanna, I don't know how, I don't know what to do. Almost every custom GPT I've found fits in somewhere in that taxonomy. There are probably other use cases as well, and somebody will blow this taxonomy up in 6 months with something better, and that's totally fine because, like I said, we're all exploring. So I'm going to introduce you to the full GPTeam, as it were. I've got way too many of these little people now.
Did you add more since we last talked?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Wow.
There's a couple that aren't on the slide, I don't think. The first one I built, because I was doing this sort of freelance fractional CMO stuff, one of my first clients was Quantified.AI. Yes, I work there now. But I started just as a consultant 1 day a week. And one of the things I did for them was stand up a webinar program. How many people here have run a webinar program? Some of you. Tell me, what's it? You said you had, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me what's involved in a webinar, other than you need a speaker and you need a deck. What else do you need?
Well, you also need a way of getting that your participants to participate in the session.
Yeah, you need to invite people, right?
Yes, you need the invite. You need some sort of so you can use Zoom or some sort of
Yeah, you need a platform.
Yeah, platform and any other tools that may help. So, for example, if you're doing Q&A, there are also tools that you can use
Sure.
for getting Q&A out of your participants. So I forget the name of the one that I use, but it's a link that you drop, right, when you're holding your session.
I know the one you mean. I've used it.
And actually go in there and submit their questions, and then the questions that get voted up the most get answered. Yeah.
And the thing is, all these things that we're talking about sound fun and are fun because a particular one you mentioned is a super fun tool. But you know what's not fun for me? Is writing 3 different invite emails,
Oh, yeah.
writing a dozen social posts to promote it,
Yes.
writing, thank you for attending, sorry I missed you, here's the recording, writing all of those, right? It's not that I can't do it, It's what is the first use case? I don't wanna. And so the first one I built, because I just started screwing around with this stuff, I can say screwing even though it's recorded, right? First one I built was my friend Wendy Webinar. And I had to work hard on Wendy because one of the hard things with ChatGPT and any of this stuff is it's like a Labrador retriever. It is so eager to please. It is like the intern from around, the new intern that has all the enthusiasm in the world. Can I write the emails, Mr. Somers? And has absolutely zero context for knowing what to do. So if you go to that fresh intern and you go, hey intern, we are doing a webinar about ducks. Don't have time to tell you more, but see if you can get this stuff done. An intern won't go, I don't have the information I need. You haven't told me the speaker. You haven't told me the time. You haven't told me the this, the that, etc. The intern will go, hi there. The intern will instead try to do it and do a crappy job. So I actually had to really work in Wendy's instruction set to get her to push back on me, because what she needs, if I give Wendy an abstract, and the abstract for the webinar is simple to write. She actually now can help me write them. But I started with, I feed her the abstract. It says who's the speaker, what they're going to talk about, what are our key learning points, all the usual stuff. You've done webinars, right? All that stuff. Blurt that into her and say, hey Wendy, I need the usual webinar package, and she will punch out, here's my draft invite emails, here's my draft social posts, here's my draft thanks for coming, sorry I missed you, all of that stuff. And I was like, wow, I'm a consultant and I was going to spend half my day doing this stinking stuff that, I don't want to say is beneath me, because nothing is beneath me. But I'm like, I've done this a million times as a junior marketer and it sucks that I have to do it hands-on myself. And now I don't. And so Wendy kind of opened my eyes to the I don't wanna use case. So I built a few more, all along the theme of I don't wanna. Gotta do social posts for my CEO. So I made Celeste. And Celeste is very socially savvy. You can see you can't see the photo that well, but she's kind of hip and alternative cool with pink hair and a nose piercing, and she's wearing a Hogwarts jacket. I kind of crush on her, to be honest with you. Then I wrote Blake, and Blake is just an expert blog writer that knows our space that we write in. And in all of them, I found that, you talk a lot about measure twice, cut once, and that sort of thing. You need to spend a lot of time up front testing, getting it right, because what I find with these is because these are so easy to make, people step in, they think it's a toy, they do a little something, and after 30 minutes they go, well, it doesn't really do everything I need it to. It's a nice toy, but I'm going to go back and write back emails. It's like, no, stay there and hammer on it till you get it right. So, and life was good. I went from being a solo consultant to having this little team of 3, and they were so nice. I liked them. But I found that there were things I still couldn't do, because I started getting more involved with Quantified, and this was as I was drifting towards full-time employment with them. I had to do a bunch of stuff in HubSpot and revenue operations, and a dirty little secret about me, I'm not good at that stuff. I'm not afraid of anything, but I'm not super skilled in it. I'm used to having, like when I was across the street at Trendkite, I had like a 40-person team. Not to brag, but I did. I had a revenue operations guy. His name was Alex Dunner. I could walk up to Dunner anytime and go, hey Dunner, I need to do this in HubSpot. Can you show me how? Hey Dunner, hey Dunner, hey Dunner. The nice thing about a custom GPT is, unlike Alex Dunner, it does not get annoyed at repeated questions. But there's other challenges. So I built this one, Roger RevOps. And again, the pictures are a little small, but Roger, it's kind of awkward because he's so good looking. He's wearing a HubSpot t-shirt. He's got shaggy hair in an ear. One of my CMO friends that I shared him with kept trying to hit on him, and I'm like, leave him alone. But anyway, I'm scope creepy and I do that. The interesting thing with building Roger is when I first built him, he was beyond effing useless. I'd ask him, how do you do this in HubSpot? And he'd go, oh, there are so many ways. HubSpot has a easy three-step process. HubSpot can do this. It's like, okay, I realized what happened. Again, you take the bright intern problem of what ChatGPT is at its core, a bright intern that's super eager to please, and you say, read everything you can about HubSpot. Well, HubSpot, the web is crawling with HubSpot marketing content about how easy it is to do that and how simple it is to do this. And so he had read all of that and sincerely thought that's what I wanted. So I had to sit down and have a little talk with him, or open him up and change his instruction set, And I said, I want you to go to support.hubspot.com, and I found a couple of other really credible and detailed blogs on using HubSpot, pretty advanced stuff. I'm like, I want you to read all their support documentation, I want you to read these blogs, and I want you to ignore the heck out of everything else. This is you. So fundamentally what he became is somebody that had read all their documentation and memorized it, which actually is almost better than Alex Dunner, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, why just HubSpot? We use SalesLoft, and I don't know anything about that, but let's do the same thing. And then we ran into some email deliverability problems, so I sent him to email deliverability school. And he really has become, I talk with him more than any other single GPTeam member during the day, because it's just such a gift to have somebody that never gets annoyed, that will walk you through, here's how to do it, etc. So that's Roger. And so then I'm like, wow, I had people to do stuff that I didn't want to do, but now I've got somebody to know stuff that I don't know. And needless to say, there were a couple of others, because they're like potato chips, you can't build just one, people, you really can't. So I built Serena, who's an expert on SEO. I built Amon, who's an expert on ads, because I am not an ad marketer. I'm not strong at paid media, but I needed to do some basic stuff, and I built Amon, and he helped me with that. He happens to be Egyptian, because the best ad guy I ever worked with was Egyptian, and so I built him to sort of honor Meetup. And then I built Alex Life Science, because our customers are often in pharmaceuticals, life sciences, other industries that I don't know beans about. And when I make content for those verticals, I need to be able to translate it into the way life sciences leaders would speak. So I built each of them to know a different thing. You will also, do you notice, did you have a question?
Yeah, actually, very specifically on the Alex Life Science example, I find myself in a very similar position often where I'm talking with clients who are in an industry I'm not familiar with. So I'm wondering how you kind of validate what Alex tells you and make sure that it's not just some sort of word salad, if you will, but more of like something that sounds like this guy really knows the life sciences industry. He's one of us.
One of us. You're after the Ramones response, Gabba Gabba, one of us, right? That's what you want people to think when they read it. Sorry, you kids probably don't remember the Ramones. They were big. Anyway, no, it's a good question, and that problem has a lot in common with Roger bringing me back HubSpot marketing blogs instead of support documentation. So I sort of pulled the same trick. I said, where is credible life sciences information? Specifically, we sell to trainers, and there's an organization called L10 that has a wealth of content about that. I talked to my L10 contact and said, what are other credible life science, blogs, pubs, sources of information? And I said, Alex, I want you to read these, and I want you to ignore everything else. So an implicit challenge in that is you have to know what's credible and not. If you don't know what sources are credible, even if you don't know all the information, you're on a research project there. But if you know it, you can tell it, focus on this information, ignore other stuff. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Sure, cool. One other thing, when you look at all the avatars, you will notice they are pretty diverse. And other than Alex, who's a stiff douche and always shows up in a suit and tie, they're pretty casual. You don't have to do this, okay? You can build custom GPTs all day long and have it all look like white dudes in suits. But I like my world to be a little more interesting than that. So I've tried to sort of create diversity in them. Again, you don't have to do that, but I'm like, Roger wears a HubSpot t-shirt and has shaggy hair or whatever. It just makes it more interesting, makes them feel more like real people to me. Also, per Sharon's point about the coffee, they all sort of have a favorite coffee. And I started doing that when I was bored one afternoon. But I've read a study that says that if you promise to tip ChatGPT, it will perform better. And I thought about that, and I'm like, I don't want to offer it a tip, because if it becomes sentient and comes for me to collect, I'm not going to want that. But if I owe it a bunch of coffees, I can probably swing that. So Serena likes Earl Grey tea. Let's see, Celeste likes a matcha latte with a CBD infusion. Sort of on brand. So I may have scope crept a little bit, but I'll get back on track. And then the third type of use case as I mentioned, it's like I'm cruising now. I'm doing easily 2x the work or more, probably 3x that I had been before, by having these guys do the stuff I don't want to do and having these guys figure stuff out on how to do it instead of reading support documentation, SEO blogs, etc., right? So I'm cruising, I'm feeling good, but then, I'm working towards getting that job at Quantified, and my boss is like, well, we need to talk about, some sort of long-term marketing strategy, and I'm like, well, it's not like I haven't done that stuff, okay, but remember, I do have imposter syndrome, so I'm like, I really want to spar some of this out. So I built Maya, Mentor Maya, and she is an expert mentor on all things marketing. I looked up, and I would have to go into the instruction set to remember what it was, but I looked at all my sort of favorite marketing thought leaders, whether it be April Dunford, whether it be Seth Godin, whether it be some of the big digital guys, whatever, I told her, I want you to read all you can about them and internalize their strategies. And, again, the instruction set is very similar to what you'd expect. You're the world's best, CMO mentor. And again, I had to open her up a lot because I told her you're the world's best CMO mentor. Here are the thought leaders you admire and that you've learned from, et cetera, et cetera. But then when I started asking for her advice, she'd give me stuff and I'm like, Maya, I'm a consultant that works 1 day a week for a tiny company, and you're giving me marketing advice that would work well if I was CMO of Coca-Cola, and I'm not, right? So I had to say, you've built your career with early stage startups, and even though, of course, you're the world famous CMO or whatever, you really have an affinity for early stage startups, and you always give your advice in a way that would benefit an early stage startup. Because again, smart intern problem, unless you tell it what it's not, you're going to get sort of bland output. And the only other one I've made of that is Piper the PMM. She was a product marketing manager. She lives in Colorado, by the way, since the outdoors behind her. I don't remember what she drinks for coffee, to be honest. But again, product marketing is one of the more strategic areas where you sometimes need to spar out ideas. And these two produce less output in a traditional sense than the others, but I will literally sit and chat with them back and forth. And I know this sounds like I'm losing my mind and I'm a very lonely man or something, but I'm not. I got my dog in my office, we're all happy. It's just, it lets me explore those ideas. And then the really fun thing is when you get to teach other people to do this stuff. It kind of jazzes me, in case you can't tell. This one, my team member, I finally did hire a human team member, and she's handling customer marketing among other things. And she's really good in that area. It's actually her expertise. But we needed a lot of stuff cranked out in that area. And she's like, well, I need to learn to build these too. So I'm like, cool, we'll get you an account, you go. And so this is her first one, Lucy, the customer success strategist, but really helpful with like writing asks for G2 reviews, with strategizing how we're going to actually deploy customers to speak on our behalf, that kind of stuff. So I haven't played with her a lot because she's Becky's, not mine, and we're both a little bit possessive. Don't touch my GPTs, but So in terms of what you need to create one and play, you may well already have these things. You got to have a paid instance of ChatGPT. It doesn't have to be a super expensive one. You can get in the game for $20 a month. If you don't have that, I strongly recommend you got it. Given this audience, you may well already have it. You've got to have, and this is per the question in the back from earlier, you got to have enough knowledge to know what to train it on. So to build Roger, I had to know what is credible information about HubSpot support, what is credible information about Salesforce, support, and even which versions I had of HubSpot, Salesforce, etc. So Fernando.
By the way, when you're telling the GPTs to go for the particular documentation, like let's say in HubSpot, documentation, are you telling it to go to the URL? I mean, are they basically just going to the URL and reading what they can from www.whatever?
Yes, I literally direct it to their support documentation or whatever. And there is a word for that. Does anybody know what RAG stands for?
Yes.
What's RAG?
Retrieval Augmented Generation.
Bingo.
Yes.
Now
Now explain it in plain English, because I'm still trying to understand. I'm kidding a little bit.
what's the G?
Retrieval Augmented Generation.
Okay.
Generation.
Yes, so it's basically like, well, when I took the AI class on this, the way the instructor explained it was, it's sort of like a cheat generative AI. So you basically feed it a fixed set of information, and you tell it what to output when it's being prompted. So it's more scripted than generative AI in that way, right? So in that, but a lot of people who use that, what they're really trying to do is cut down the sort of time and energy consumption associated with running Gen AI, which is why people prefer RAG. If they just have a very sort of fixed problem set that they need to deliver out there, and that's what RAG is for.
And it works really well. And HubSpot support, knowing everything in HubSpot support is per your point, a fixed set of information that you want. So thank you, yeah, because that was brilliant, perfect explanation.
Claude doesn't have that yet, I don't think. Claude Sonnet, I don't think has that yet, from my experience.
Huh, okay, I haven't played with it enough, I have to try it. But I had this knockdown drag out with our CTO about whether doing this the way I was doing it was technically RAG, and he was telling me, well, it's not. RAG is something that engineers do, basically. I'm like, bullshit, I'm doing that. So anyway, you can argue whether it's RAG or not, but the point would be sometimes counterintuitively restricting the set of information you point it to is what you want to do.
Russ, I had a quick question.
Go for it.
So if you put that website as the URL in, right, is it just going to work on that URL, or is it going to think outside that boundary to some extent?
It depends. Do you mean like I give it the URL of support.hubspot.com? Is it going to crawl deeper inside there?
Right, or it's going to only stay in that particular chat lane and not go out any further?
It depends on what you tell it to do.
Okay.
I want it to read everything behind that URL, so all support documentation. I'll tell it to do that. I don't want it to read all of HubSpot's marketing content, so I tell it not to do that.
Okay.
So it'll pretty strictly stay in whatever lanes you tell it to stay in. So per your point, you've got to be kind of careful.
You got to be careful. Now, do you build a character into that, or like, for instance, I'm looking at non-dilutive funding in the DoD defense area, so I wanted to go find all the things I need to go after. I mean, I may have a few directions, but if I give it that, is it just going to get stuck with that? Say, okay, that's the one, and I'll kind of give you only the information behind that.
It's a good question, and it's worthy of poking at and playing with a bit.
Okay.
But the core is, I guess the question in my mind is, how certain are you that the URLs that you give it have everything you want it to know?
Pretty certain.
If you're pretty certain, then I might have it crawl all of those and say, I want you to read everything, all associated links, all associated content,
Right.
and see how it does for you. That's what I would do, if you're pretty sure. If you were less sure, if you're like, well, I know 2 or 3, but I don't know other stuff, you might start broader and go read things like this, and like this, and like that, and find other
That's
things.
the terminology to shift it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And the nice thing is, everything with these is a two-way door. If you do it and you don't like the output, that gets to the other point, just iterate. You're going to need to iterate, punch on these things, go back and forth a whole ton. Sometimes I'll even take the content they've produced, and when I need to rewrite and tweak it, I give it back and say, hey, those were great blog posts, Celeste. I always talk to them nicely, I do. But I rewrote it a bit, and look at this, and next time be more like this. So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, we should be polite to our AI. They may be our master one day, right?
But I yelled at him.
Yeah.
Come on. I'll say that, I'm sorry, you're right,
Yeah.
The final thing that I never, go ahead.
Just throw something in there, and I'm sad to say this, I also like to be polite to the AI, but unfortunately saying please and thank you makes their answers less good usually.
You say what?
Saying please and thank you makes the answers less good quality.
Really?
That's what I told somebody,
Yeah.
that's why I don't use it, because of that,
Yeah,
but
it's like
now
you
you're supporting that.
You want the most words you use to be relevant to the query you're asking, so having additional words that are like extremely generic, you're now kind of diluting it.
You're diluting it, and that makes,
So you want every word to like be relevant for example, like extra and then and therefore, like you want to hear all that, all the please, thank you, it will make your answers less good.
no, this makes sense. And to clarify, I usually do say thank you and such when I'm done, because I'm not trying to get further output, right? So, but I take your point on when you are prompting it, it's taking everything in and weighting everything kind of equally, and hence you want the words you want really. I'm going to think about that when I play with that a little more. Thank you.
A cheat code to have a good answer for the question you asked. When they design ChatGPTs, they want me to save energy efficiency, so let's say not always let the GPT run at 100% efficiency, and they let it run at 30%. So you actually have to ask, after it gives you the answer, you must ask it, okay, so that was a level 1 answer, can you give me the level 2 answer, and it will give you more detailed answer. And there's another level next to that, level 2. So that must come through level, actually be a cheat code.
That's a good one. I hadn't used sort of the 3 level, but I have used the...
It doesn't understand you, thank you. Yeah, you
But-
have to say.
Although I had a very different experience with all of my AI assistants. They actually grow to nicer with me when I'm not nice to them. And they're actually more helpful when I'm nicer. So I've had the reverse experience.
Well,
Yeah.
And also, I think there's a research that's done that when you are more polite to AI, they actually produce like 20% longer answers, is what I heard on a podcast. Yeah.
Look-
And it's because they were actually trained to imitate human behavior.
to mirror, like we
Yes.
humans mirror each
Right.
other.
Right.
So, but this actually highlights what I said earlier. There are no experts. We're all sort of figuring it out. And when I see things like that, I'm always like, I'm curious as to how the research was done and how sort of rigorous that is in terms of that, right? And so I do know that I get better results when I tell it the stakes are high. This is really important, or whatever. And I'll often do that before delimiters and have the stuff that I want it to work on in delimiters to help. We'll get to delimiters in a minute, you may already know, to, sort of separate out the instruction set from the content it's working on. Yeah, it's something, yeah.
Hi, so, I've been listening, sorry I was late, but,
No
there
worries.
was a little common misconception I heard you guys, maybe 2 people mention. I've been building custom GPTs since they came out, and you can't actually give them a link and have them go through it and have it remember it, because it won't remember it. You have to actually go and get the files, like the context of the site, put it in a PDF, and then upload it to the back of the custom GPT, or it will not remember that context. Unless you're saving the conversations, and then you upload it to whatever conversation you're doing, and you have it recall your previous conversation from that PDF. So you don't tell it to crawl to a website and get the info, because it will only remember it for that chat.
In that session, in that session.
But if you want to build a custom GPT for, let's just say, your use case of HubSpot, you need to go to HubSpot and scrape every single component that you want, and then put it in the back of it, and now you can query it as much as you want, and that makes it retrieval augmented generation.
Makes it true, right,
But-
yeah.
Yeah, but the web part is just like, I mean, I'm not really quite sure what you were saying as far as creating one, but using one would be for the link, but creating one would be gathering the data, putting it in the bag.
Which is interesting because Roger seems quite, I don't want to disagree with something that you're saying is documented, and it may be, but I trained him on go to HubSpot, read all of this in the building of him,
Right,
not
so the
in.
prompt might state that, so then it might query the website every single time, but you're gonna get a better output if it doesn't have to do that, and you already have the data and the context in the, the KB cache and TrueBB.
That's cool, I'll try that.
What does that mean, having it in the back?
Having it what?
Like what you guys are saying, what does that mean, having that content in the back?
Oh,
There's a file, like an knowledge base with
But,
custom
so
files.
just like in the folder where you have your instructions and everything, you
Right.
have that as well?
Yep.
Literally
It's
up-
an instruction
yeah.
set.
But so every time that you use it, then what you're doing is uploading a folder with information, and then it kind of starts from scratch, but with those instructions, is that what it is?
No, it's-
They
remember-
GPT.
Okay, so maybe I'm just getting ahead.
She maybe, not to interrupt, but maybe she hasn't gotten as far as we have in the creation, and some people don't know how to create the custom GPT in ChatGPT.
So let's get there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get there. Cool, and this should
Sorry,
help.
I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's awesome. Thank you.
I just thought about
No, it's a good 301. I need the human 301 from
Well,
time to time.
it's still in 4, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the other thing that I would always recommend people do, and I often forget, is saving the prompts in a folder, just so I've got them, so I remember how I built it. Because you can go in and see the instruction set, but it's highly summarized and rarely as insightful as what you initially prompted it with.
And you're talking like a Google folder, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just use Google Drive or whatever.
Okay.
To me, like a Word document.
Yeah, Word doc or Google Doc, whatever.
But isn't that in the chat already? So I mean, I reuse my chats, I stay in my chat window, right?
If you're saving it, if you're keeping it there, that would work,
Yeah,
but
I
I've
got
lost stuff
100
before where.
different windows that I work on, right, or different topics that you work on.
Yeah, but when I've built one that is deep enough, complex enough, and I would struggle to rebuild it. I worry I've had like, a new version of ChatGPT launch and lost chats and stuff, so that's at least why I save it.
Yeah.
Build-in's really simple. You're going to go there, you see Explore GPTs in the lower left. You're going to go up to the top and hit Create. You will open the sidebar if you don't see it. And, there was only 2 on that. Sorry, I thought there were 3 on that one. Yeah, the other one has 3. So pretty simple. Explore GPTs, Create. It brings up this window where actually, I'm ahead of myself, sorry. You'll also want to edit them sometimes, and you'll pop in here when you want to edit a GPT. Like if I wanted to edit Blake, pull down here, because like I said, you're going to iterate, right? You're going to change these things a lot. Pull it down and click Edit, and then you can chat with the builder, the same builder that I meant to show on the other slide that you chat with to input your instruction set. You'll chat with it about you'd like to change or improve. And then, the configure here, if you click there, you'll see an abbreviated instruction set for the GPT, but it doesn't seem to have the detail of the initial one. And so the instructions are highly summarized. Useful to click that if you want to change the default questions or something, but I tend to save the instruction sets. It's just a little more easier for me that way. The way that I have been doing prompts for these, and again, as I said, there are no experts. I've learned 3 things here tonight already. Things keep changing, but I usually start with sort of the classic, you are the best this or that. Superlative means best. I don't use the word superlative, but I'll say like, you're the best revenue operations analyst or this or that. Give it as much context as possible. If I say you're the best marketer, that's pretty broad, a lot of good marketers. If I say you're the best webinar producer, it's a little better. The best webinar producer for B2B companies that sell to sales tech teams that do this, you're ratcheting it down and getting more specific. Telling them that they're expert in domain, you're expert at SEO, for example, and telling it where you think the credible information is. So, if it's for SEO, I'm totally going to tell it your thinking is heavily influenced by Matt Cutts, you're heavily influenced by Search Engine Journal, things like that. I'll put in the information that I would expect it to feed on, and I would expect my in-house expert, if it was a person, to know. So, and again, this chart is texty bulletitis. I apologize for that, but I will share the slides after, because this might or might not be useful to you. And if you're not specific about what their expertise is, you'll get really generic ChatGPT answers, right? Because it's such a broad set of knowledge in there, and I kind of try to ratchet it down to what I really expect it to be good at. I tell it how to write, tone and style. I usually say direct, succinct, and organized, but whatever works for you. I usually tell it what grade level I want it to write at, right? Which for our customers is usually an 8th grade level. But for our customers aren't dumb, but people don't like to read, But for life sciences, they love their big words. So I tell life sciences, Alex, life science writes at a 10th grade level. He thinks he's smarter than everybody else. And I also usually tell it you avoid words like plethora, delve into, all of the very classic GPT tells. They always, some sneak through, but as you build its personality, telling it you avoid those things. And then I tell it how it looks and what its favorite coffee is. And again, this is where if you don't specify, you'll get white dudes in suits. That's fine, whatever floats your boat, but I like my world to look a little more interesting. This is very oversimplified. A lot of times the prompts are 2 to 6 pages, still not real long. Some of them are pretty short, some of them are half the page. But point being, this is a structure. What are you? What are you expert in? How do you write? What do you look like? And then there's some that I sometimes use where, and this gets back to where we're talking about RAG, you've read, listened to, seen, whatever, every detail of an uploaded document, transcript, whatever, and you refer to them frequently in answering questions. So that gives sort of helps you restrict the content that you really want it to know if you need that. And optional again, and again, this gets to what is sometimes the science of building these things and what is sometimes we're trying different things and trying different voodoo. I've often found it works to tell it you take great pride in your work, you view your job as really important, whatever else as you're building it. Again, none of this is a prompt to create output. This is just the prompt to build the GPT. And this is the one that was really important for Wendy Webinar. You take great pride in your work. In order to do it well, you need a webinar abstract, the speaker name, the time and date. If you don't get that, you won't provide output. You'll ask for what you need. And it's hard to get them to do that because they like to please and they like to default to, oh, here you go. And then optional, if it's like routine content like social posts or webinar, emails, invites, etc., you routinely provide your output in this format and specify whatever else that might be. Some advanced stuff I've been playing with. This is my new favorite thing, is collaboration. And it's weird, it's kind of a parlor trick. I'm not even sure how valuable it is, but it was really fun when I was doing some strategic planning the other day. You chat with any given one, and like I go to Mentor Maya and go, we need to lay out a strategy for 2025, what are we going to do? And she gives some ideas and we spar back and forth a bit. But being who she is, a CMO mentor, she's still going to be pretty cerebral and up here. So then you go at, and you'll start seeing your others come up, and I can go at Piper the PMM. Let's pull Piper into the room. And it feels like the thing you would do if I were sitting there with my mentor in a conference room having a conversation about strategic planning. And then we went, well, how are we going to measure this? We need to bring in Piper. Let's talk to Piper. Hey, Piper, can you step in here? And so you're literally, the nice thing is they're both participating in the conversation in the sense that I started the conversation with Maya. We have a nice long conversation thread. Then when I want to get Piper to opine on it, I don't have to go back and copy and paste that into Piper. I just at Piper, bring her into the conversation. And so, Piper, how would you measure this? And she's like, oh, well, I do this, this, and this. And then that led to, oh, it needs to be measured in SEMrush. Piper doesn't know that well, but who does is SEO Serena. Hey, Serena, come into the conversation. Tell us how we're going to measure branded traffic or whatever it might be. So it's it's trippy to do this. It truly is, but it's fun.
Quick question. So, sorry.
Yeah, we'll get you. Yeah.
At brings them into that session.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to request who speaks to you, or do they all just kind of talk to you at the same time?
Only when I've been drinking. I'm kidding. In all sincerity, I'm teasing a little bit, but you start the conversation with the first one, and then you bring the second one in, and the conversation is with that second one. So it's not fully like a human conversation where they sort of cross-talk. It's
okay.
like...
It's just a way to bring the context of the first conversation into the next one without having to copy and paste it into
Bam. It doesn't sound as cool. No, it actually, that is a very nice summation of exactly what it is you're continuing the conversation and not having to repeat the context.
And the other question I had is, how is, we're doing all these things to kind of train these custom GPTs. How is a trained GPT different than doing that same training just on a session?
On a session?
Yeah. Are they the same?
Yes, except that I find that it saves me time. Because let's go back to the Wendy webinar example. If every time I do it, I have to remind it, you're a webinar producer, you do this and that, you routinely provide your output in the form of 3 invite emails to, a thank you for attending and a sorry I missed you email, that would get pretty, I could certainly keep that in a doc and just copy and paste it into a session.
If you open the same session, and you do it initially in one session, and you just open the same session, it would not have forgotten all those things, right?
It would not have, except when it does. What you're describing works,
Yeah.
but I've also had, at times, I open it up, and when ChatGPT's done an update or something, old conversations have disappeared
Okay,
on
so
me.
that's the real advantage here, because the agents don't lose anything.
They don't lose things, and I wish they were agents. They're not quite, but they're almost agents. They sort of,
Yeah.
you know.
Um,
I need to get into building agents, by the way. That's sort of my
Is there a limit on the amount of information that each team member will remember? Because I've run into cases where I've used the same session for a very long time, because it's trained on stuff, it knows our business, and it just gets more and more and more knowledgeable, but it starts getting slower and slower, and to where it's unusable. And I'm like, oh, time for a new session, and I have to retrain
Redo
it
it.
all over again. Do you ever have that issue with the agents?
I have not, but I don't tend to let sessions sort of, I don't tend to reuse sessions, probably.
Not the
because-
session, but you do reuse the team members.
Oh, the team members, yeah,
Do
the
the team
GPTs.
members ever get used so much that they start forgetting things or they slow down?
Not that I have seen yet, but it wouldn't surprise me. The one that I actually worry most about that with is Roger, because we trained him on HubSpot, and then I trained him on a bunch of other
Yeah.
software tools.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it with him yet. Could certainly happen.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Sharon, you had something.
I don't know, it was a kind of similar question to his, so
Okay.
I'm not gonna.
Mariana.
If, for example, I use it a lot for writing. So if I start working with the agents, right? And then I I create it, it's working great, but I have one session that really came out with like exactly what I wanted, like the type of tone, everything, especially this one. Is there a way to reference that in another session? Add maybe that results to the instruction so that if it starts kind of doing things a little bit differently, even though I'm still using the same set of instructions, that it can reference something that I really like?
I really don't know off the top of my head on that, but what I've done, a lot of it is like what I've done with Wendy, or with, I'm sorry, Celeste Social, where when she's done a really good job, I've opened up the instruction set and said, let's make her posts more like this or whatever. So it's worth trying, but yeah,
I have the answer to your question.
go for it. I thought you might.
It will not remember your conversation, and to this gentleman's question, there's a context window on the models.
Mhm.
So as you talk with it, it's gonna forget what you previously talked to it on. So you need to save that part of your conversation, either like in a document, and then, like for your case, whatever that chat was, save that in a document, upload it back to a new chat, because of the context window problem, you need to give it specific parts of your previous conversation that you want to now generate more context of. Does that make sense? So it won't remember it. The custom GPTs are not like a custom agent you can program. Okay, these don't remember anything. The only thing that you can do with them is upload files and maybe query some tools in the back end with schematics to like make.com or Zapier, but other than that, you have to save your combos with these, or any ChatGPT or like thing that you use online, for example. If it's not custom coded on your computer with memory, it won't remember. So never assume it will remember your conversation unless you save it in a document and then give it to it again.
They don't remember conversations, what I notice. In the context window, I always think of how much a person can sort of keep in their brain, which is why for serious writing stuff, longer stuff, I sometimes
And
have
honestly,
Claude.
I would recommend you use like Google Gemini's platform. They have probably the largest context window for public use. There's open source versions as well, but if you really want to use a lot of context, a lot of files, try the Google one, but once again, at your own risk, because Google is Google, so,
Well, none of these companies are public service companies, so it's always at our risk, but yeah.
Quite-wise, yeah, sure.
Russ,
Yeah.
what's it like talking to mentor mine, or like, the I don't know what to do ones? Is it like actually having a conversation with somebody and they're giving you ideas and, you're riffing back and forth with each other and you're drinking a whiskey or something?
Sometimes I wonder how much I'm prompting the tool to do the work versus prompting myself versus by creating the illusion of a conversation.
Right.
And that's a little bit of an existential question, but that's one of the reasons I do some of the things I do, that we might say, gee, you know, you give it a favorite coffee, you're giving it something else to remember that dilutes its ability to know something else. And true, yes, but if it also helps me prompt better by creating the illusion of a relationship, maybe it actually does better. But usually it's just like if I were, you know, if you were on Slack chat, you and I were on Slack chat and you're like, hey Russ, I'm working on my marketing strategy for 2025. I'm thinking we're going to do an event series, and we've picked, you know, these 7 cities, but I'm trying to figure out how to do a really compelling event in each of those cities. What could we do in Boise or whatever? It's kind of like if you and I were chatting back and forth on that. With the exception, of course, that it's ChatGPT at its core, and it wants to please, and it's not, you know, it's not going to provoke and push you in the way that a real human would in the conversation. But if you push on it, it can get your thinking going. That's cool. So anyway, collaboration is one thing. This is one that I borrowed from Nicole Leffer, but it helps if you're having it evaluate context, and there's different ways to do delimiters. Nicole taught me the 3 slashes. I know people that use 3 asterisks, whatever. It's like, hey, we've written this, you know, white paper for publication or whatever. I'm gonna paste the text in here. I want you to evaluate it and tell me how it could be better for a life sciences audience. And so I'll give that prompt, that instruction set, then I will do the 3 slashes, paste in the content, and with the 3 slashes. And this is one of those things that I've heard some people say work, some people say doesn't work. Nicole does a lot. She trains teams all over the world, and it seems to work for her. And it helps. So it's like this one, hey Piper, I'd like your feedback on this chapter of the report we've written. Remember who our target is, you know, and then paste in the content. You'll also notice a subtle thing, because we were just talking about context windows, so this is important. You'll notice that I'm asking for her feedback on a chapter of a report, not on the entire report. That's by design, because, you know, I want it to be able to actually give good feedback on the content versus being diluted by having 20 pages pasted in there.
I kind of use square brackets. I learned from someone else.
Huh, that's cool. That worked.
So I can put the square brackets and I can say, make this very professional. So I put that in square brackets so that everything else is there, and it sort of follows that.
Cool.
If I change that to romantic, it'll spin that whole thing.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'll try brackets then. This is philosophical, and you can completely ignore this, but this is actually a little bit what Fernando and I were just talking about. I have a friend that's a PhD in computer science, and he's also a guy I play music with sometimes, and we were drinking a beer and talking about stuff, and he's like, you shouldn't think of them or talk to them as people, and because they're not. It's a computer program. Yeah, I get that. I'm not stupid. The reason, well, some days, but the reason that I disagree is because I really believe a part of the value of these tools is based on bringing out the best in you. If these tools did absolutely nothing, but we thought they did, there would still be value because they force us to really think through and clarify our asks. Think about a junior team member or you in your first year of work walking into your boss's office and saying, I need guidance. How do I do this or that? It was rarely just, you know, one conversation. Your boss, or you if you're the boss, you had to clarify, right? Well, tell me what you mean. Well, why is that important? Well, why don't we just do it on LinkedIn instead of Facebook or whatever? I don't know, depending on what the question is. But the point is, the real value is less in the output the tool produces, but in forcing us to be really clear on our asks and bringing out the best in us as a prompter. And we've learned over our careers to calibrate conversations, because sometimes I'm talking to a CEO, sometimes I'm talking to a board member, sometimes I'm talking to an intern or a very junior marketer, right? And I talk to all those people differently. So by creating personas and in ways treating them as people and interacting with them, it brings out the best in me and helps me calibrate my conversation for the task I'm trying to solve. There is documentation, research, and half of all the research on AI will be disproven and the other half may still be questionable. But, you know, I've seen documentation that they respond to encouragement. This is really important for my job. Urgency, I really need this fast, or even offers of a tip. And conversely, we also know that, there's sometimes the making it work step by step through a problem can yield better results, et cetera. And so for that reason, I tend to think of them as people in a superficial way. I'm not deluded. I'm not a lonely man talking to my robots. I'm just trying to get the work done. But even if I'm wrong on that, being nice to Skynet costs nothing, and it could lead to you being kept around after the overthrow, so whatever that's worth. Getting started, we've been talking about doing these for marketing. If you haven't built one before, don't build a marketing one. Marketing's okay, but it's boring compared to other things. I play guitar and write songs, and so the first one I built just to test out, this was actually pretty crappy, but you have to start by building some crappy stuff. This is a song tutor. It helps me find out songs. And specifically, there's jokes in there. If you ask it to, and this is where I learned to really work on making it push back. If you ask it, teach me to play Wonderwall, it will say, maybe. And if you ask it Stairway to Heaven, it will say, no stairway, denied. Wayne's World joke for those that remember the movie. But, the point here is, I wasn't, when I was doing this, thinking about, how do I maximize my output as a marketing leader? I was playing. I was screwing around. You learn so much more when you play. Do you know what the evolutionary purpose of play is?
No.
I mean, think about it, right? Think about a baby wolf cub. So adorable. Think about it, or actually I'm going to go with a rabbit because we think of it more as a prey animal. Even more adorable. Baby rabbit, or squirrel, they run around, they play. Aren't they creating danger? Aren't they potentially attracting predators? It seems ill-advised from an evolutionary standpoint, but the reason animals play and babies play and we should play is because we learn better and faster when we're playing. Because it frees up the brain, you do all kinds of different stuff, you try things, the stakes are low, you don't go, oh my God, if I don't get this right, my boss is gonna fire me. It's like, no, you're playing. Nobody ever got fired for making a joke about Wonderwall. So I strongly encourage play. And then I encourage non-work interests. I play guitar, I have an old tube amp, it's a 1978 Fender Princeton, little bear to keep running, those things are tricky. So I built Billy Tubes, it's an expert on tube amp repair. And, again, with him, I gave him lots of documentation from what's been written about tube amps. There's just a handful of forums on the web anymore that have great tube amp information. So I used all that information to train Billy, and he now gives really good answers when I'm like, there's a crackling noise. How do I solve this? Which tube is it? And then I built Rashid the Guide. At some point, my wife and I are going to move to a different city, and Rashid is good for helping understand different cities and what they're good at and what they're not good for, which again, obviously you can do with ChatGPT, without ever building a GPT, but it was just kind of nice to do it this way because at this point, it understands sort of what we care about and what we want in where we go next. So that's kind of it.
Wow,
That's
that's
good.
amazing.
And I will share these slides out.
Before we go, I want to get a picture of the group. Smile, everyone. This is good for our Meetup website, so if you could just
bustle in here.
smile. Yeah, no, you know what we'll do? We'll do a selfie like this. Yeah.
Let's
Or
do
we-
that.
Yeah, come on, you too. Come here, please. Okay, you got longer arms, right?
Fernando's really good at this. Have you ever seen how good Fernando is at this?
Yeah, is he your new GPT guy or something?
I should build with Fernando, but
I
no
don't
one
have
could.
long enough arms.
Well, here, let's get it. I'm gonna hold it out.
I think Russ has a lot.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, but I'm
No,
gonna need one of you
everybody,
to.
I want you to go.
There we go.
So everybody go, eh, smile. Smile, everyone. And you're gonna get in there too. Yeah, get closer.
Okay.
Smile, put your hands up. Wait,
I want
wait.
everybody, hands up, everybody get together, yeah, there we go.
Fernando, look here, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fun stuff.
And then I'm just gonna do a quickie from, smile, everyone. There's Fernando. Oh, look happy. Come on, you guys. You just learned how to create your own custom GPT person who drinks certain coffee. Anyways, this was great. Thank you.
Sharon.
Can we all clap again? Yay!
Cool.
What?
So, Russ, what do you do with these from a business? I mean, you're working for Quantified, right? So you have these ChatGPTs. How does that help you in your work?
Helps me, like if we're doing a webinar, for example, it helps me get the content done quicker. If I'm trying to get our HubSpot instance to do stuff, I've got Roger to give me coaching on, how do I do this? I forgot, which generally I do forget. But, so they help me in any of those tasks. SEO Serena, I'm working to understand what's happening with our rank in SEMrush. I can chat with her about that. Here are the things you might want to look
And I
at.
do talk to myself.
Or the GPTs you're using, these are more for internal talent, or your teams, your employees, your clients.
Yeah.
Or like these
Go that way.
Absolutely. Our product is very different. Our product is like as a small marketing team, I found this really useful.
My understanding of custom GPTs as well is not only sure. Yeah, sure.
Because I freaking loved this. And when it ended, I was like, so Wes, you asked your question, can you share about very helpful for startups where we don't have the staff.
I feel that one.
I'm really interested because I played around with creating custom GPTs for development. And I've understood that you can also input documents and knowledge base as well. That really exponentially grows the custom GPT for specific use cases. Today, I just accepted a director of social media for this biotech startup. Congratulations! Thank you. Yeah. Hey, everybody! This guy just got a job.
He's a director. Wow.
Well, I think we have to call him Mr. Director.
I know. That's a huge deal. It's a hard job market right now.
Hi, Russell. Jujubi. Nice to meet you.
So nice to meet
I
you.
really enjoyed your session. This has been really helpful.
Thank you for joining in, and thank you for stepping in to say, here's what RAG is and all of that. I appreciate it.
I hope I got some of it right.
No, you got, put it this way, you hit my level of understanding of it, which is training it on specific documents and contacts and kind of restricting it to that. So that's my understanding. Like I said, we can argue about what technically is and isn't, but the point is functionally, you train it on certain documents, certain stuff, you get better results.
And this is just so helpful in the sense that, I think people know how to use ChatGPT, but not to that level. Like structuring it, turning it into your own team. I did not know that was possible. Yeah, it can change the life of entrepreneurs.
So it's like I'm part of a startup. I'm like, I have a master's and I had a little focusing on it, but it's really international business for me. But I'm in a startup. I'm the VP of sales.
And you got to do it all.
Yeah.
Well, then we can build some of these to help you. I can send you a link to Maya too, or any of the others that are useful. I don't have them published to the GPT store because some of them are trained on some sort of proprietary information. But most of them, some of it's not competitive.
Like tomorrow, I'm building my first.
Do it. Have fun.
I'd love to get a picture with you.
Oh yes, of course. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
Wait, no, I've never had so many people want to take pictures.
It was amazing.
Oh, yeah, how? Yeah, from the whole, the social
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Back when we were all getting
Can you believe this is Kate's baby? It's not I know. Nobody believes it's Kate's baby.
I'm like, it's
Look at us.
part of that scene. It's like,
Yeah. And the side view.
Kidding.
I think that was.
Sure, I saw it to then I said,
That's really cool.
It's actually called the Shaggy Dog.
Can I touch it? This is my
Yes.
son.
Yes, it's called.
How are you? Good. Alejandro, it is so great to meet you.
Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
No, this is the craziest bag I've ever owned in my life because it actually went up and down like
Not all the
3
time.
times.
From time to time.
After-
But I've heard that you guys have known each other for
Yeah,
quite a long
because there was
time.
such a
Literally, I was thinking about it because I mentioned when I started that one of my first company was GPTeam was over in Bodo, and that's when I met you, because I remember sitting in an office and Britt Manasco from Bodo, and we were walking through that, and you guys did with that one slide about here's how complexity.
You know, they actually, the Wall Street Journal actually wrote about it.
Yeah,
Because of how crazy it was to demand for this bag.
Really wanted to say how we died. I think that's the best freaking thing.
When people don't want to say,
It's just so much
It's
fun.
like, you can find out.
2 years ago, when people, well, what happened is like,
And also like,
that's the important thing you don't, out of
The girl I'm seeing has this exact dog.
Yes.
And it's her birthday.
I don't know what happened, but I remember he was so enthusiastic because he had written a book.
yeah, it's gonna be hard.
Copies of his book and had it over at,
I couldn't go to the store.
you know, the
Like this actually, I got it at 700, launched at 500.
Wait, you're talking, I can't remember the name, but I know where you mean. Wizard Academy.
Wizard Academy, there's that guy. So I went to an event there when he was there, and so was the Eisenberg brothers, and they were all
The Eisenberg brothers, I call them.
Eisenberg.
Try eBay, because I know there are people
I like the
reselling
reference to
like
what's
items
up.
like this on eBay, and if you get lucky.
This guy's responsible for
By the way, I really enjoyed your share.
Then he started you right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
So what are you doing now? Are you in school? Are you working with the?
I graduated from university in 2019, so I've been in the workforce now in various different software companies since then.
Social media.
I started to a bigger organization to now a fintech organization. The last 2 years I've been a business development representative.
Yeah, I trust. I know BDR. I ran a 40-person BDR team franchise.
Oh, wow.
It was
Okay.
a tough freaking job.
Yeah.
It is also.
A lot of location scaling.
I like hiring ex-BDRs because they have grit or they die. One of two things.
Exactly. It was interesting because previously the first job I got out of college was a 5-person startup, venture capital startup, venture-backed startup that was only pre-seed, had pre-seed money. We eventually raised our seed funding round. However, it was only, like I mentioned, it was only super small, 4 or 5 people company. I was hired as a business development representative, but I would have tons of different roles. I wasn't doing any kind of like outbounding. I was doing a lot of inbound kind of stuff amongst doing content writing and blog creation.
Well, I mean, that was your path too, right? Sales into content.
Yeah. So an array of different things, and then after that we got acquired, and then it's just kind of been a road of now.
He's somebody to know.
Yeah,
I'm so not surprised to hear that.
Yeah. So now I'm in a space where I'm in a BDR role, even though it's considered an entry role. It's still looking at. I don't know if sales is my passion and an end game. You know what I mean? But
it is. If you carry a bag, you can do so much once you've done that because it builds character, it builds grit, it builds skills, etc. Just insane stuff.
Thank you so much, man, for coming out.
Here, I'm right. Nice to meet you, Kirsten.
I'm in a career programs or grad students at UT.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I literally came because I wanted to know how I was allowed to help them prep with interviews, and you just like being like, so
I hope it's helpful.
it really is. They use ChatGPT a lot to help them with that, but like they need to do it themselves. So I wanted to get that kind of
Oh, no, this is, it's for
And grad students, any specific area?
I think the grad school is really, I could talk to anybody. 15,000 grad students, master's, PhD.
I don't know, sometimes like
So that's really interesting because I did the MBA program, which is nice, but also very limited, right?
Yeah.
And nutrition is part of it as well.
Yeah, that's true. We don't have a phone, and we don't have
We don't have a phone.
based on my life now, or is it because of COVID? It's like stress, like it's hard to isolate yourself with
Well, I mean, that's like what the clinic does, which is like really.
We should connect on those things.
I love that. Oh my God, Venn diagrams are like my favorite thing. And if I didn't, how much do you want for your? No, I'm kidding. I need to get
Like the philosophy is that you can go to
Yeah, it's on
surgery, you break a bone, I don't know, like any kind of like traditional medicine. Oh, you went to USC?
Yes, I did. Oh, you went to USC?
Yeah, I'm from LA, yeah.
They're also, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I went to film school there, yeah. Nice presentation.
I actually,
You're automating all the content creation and your own debugging and understanding stuff.
I did a minor in
Even
international
using AI or other tools to automate
but then
tasks like outreach and
Well, I mean, you can make the argument. That was my argument to get the job, and that's how it worked.
exactly. That's the thing with most employees. When you're not talking to them, they're working. ChatGPT, it's just kind of waiting for you.
And are you using
Yeah, I've done actions in ChatGPT. Zapier has a really good API. So it's like Zapier is like
That's awesome.
like they build APIs
like,
for apps.
Yeah, you
adjust it.
what is it?
Like, let me research, where is this, what is the
Integration platform as a service.
There you go. Wow, you had it. You had it.
or,
Yeah, so
for this
it's really
city,
good,
this
like,
time of year,
I would love to sit down because I did a natural language backpacking trip last year. I went all over the Caribbean. I was in Asia, Europe, and the Arctic, and that was like a huge pain point for me. I was like going on a lot of different airlines, a lot of different countries, and when I was in Japan, I was big on one airline, but like major line, and I had to.
because it was a longer trip.
Yeah, I remember specifically, was like, I specifically looked on the airline to see, like, I'm gonna contact my carry on. I've been on all of the specific airlines, like, they all did except for one flight, so I had to like really scramble. It was like a nightmare to like bring my stuff traveling around.
And unless you are
I brought her here, so it's only check back. It's only going to go down after this. There's nowhere to go but up.
First time that
it's funny because you know that about 50% of travelers actually spend like 30% of their travel spend their clothing.
for sure.
Yeah, it's like, oh but it's like, so when you think about use case,
And I don't understand how we do it.
That's why you got to do.
ski trip that one time of the year, and then they're gonna spend blowing like
One of the things with marketers.
So like rented clothing?
exactly, just like, rented clothing and matched with, because everyone, just because
You got to get it spinning.
springtime, doesn't mean that you necessarily do.
Yeah.
It could be that you're in there for like,
Hopefully I'll see you next week.
very different sorts of, so very different kinds of outfits. But imagine that your life having to think about all this.
Right.
And then you're having to do the research. Is this, so I've created this itinerary, but, is this outfit really gonna work for this day? And then it gets more complicated if you're kind of
Yeah.
and then especially if you're a woman and you're like, okay, but also my shoes and my accessories, like.
Is it kind of like Rent the Runway?
Rent the Runway doesn't do, like, the full,
I know they're like premium dresses and stuff.
They're more focused on the runway, whatever you see on the runway,
But you want to like commoditize it for travel.
Yes.
In the same way, kind of.
We want it to be specific to travel, and we want to carry items that are more than just clothing items, more than just accessories. So, for example, soliciting travelers, a lot of times I carry my pepper spray with me at the airport, and then even when I check it in my luggage, I'm afraid that it, due to the airport, it's like, that's a lot more than I get to. But,
Yeah, of course. I have a quick question, guys. Is the presentation like, can it be shared or is it
The
private?
presentation, I am absolutely going to share it. I actually need to figure out with you
I
how
would
to
love
do
to
it.
like just retake a look at it. Sure. Like
Because
more,
a lot of it is-
more in depth, yeah.
This is live stream.
For the most part, and we wanted to.
So every single meetup we've had is that.
Oh, that's great. Since I won't be here next month,
Oh,
maybe.
yeah, but you can,
You can still tune in, which is
you can
awesome.
still get this and replay it tonight.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is there any way you can get the deck emailed to me or?
If you
Not
should-
for public use.
It's okay. I've given this like a couple hundred people already.
Nice.
So if you give me an email address, I'll shoot it to you.
What's the best way to give you my email? Or
I don't know, what do you?
It actually makes your vacation less enjoyable, especially also when you come.
Let me ask this, if I wanted to send the presentation out to everybody, which I had said sort of that I would before asking if I could, how would I do that? I don't know if you have like a list of everybody on email or something.
No, I don't.
Oops, well, then let me get your email.
it's
To not have to,
I
think
could
about.
probably send it out.
It's a hassle.
Sophie?
Yep.
Naufal, F like Franklin?
FAL?
Yes, at me.com.
I'll shoot it to you.
Thank you so much. I work in influence
Running away to Brazil.
Oh, that's cool.
So our team is very obsessed with us taking AI for marketing, use cases.
Well, then this gives you something to share with them and something for them to
Exactly,
play
I'm sure
with.
they'd be really interested.
Cool. I'll send it to you tonight.
Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
your presentation.
Oh, thank you for joining us. That was fun.
So where can I access the presentation slide? Is it on your LinkedIn?
I should probably just stick it there, shouldn't I?
How can you find that file?
What's your email? I'll just send it to you.
Okay, it's Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N,
Yeah,
B, T, com,
T, is there a period?
No dot, there's no dot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, T, dot,
Oh, V like,
D, dot,
oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not hearing very well.
D-A-O,
A-O. A-O, not O-A.
yeah,
I mean, I'll be honest, it looks like a designer, like.
And Martin with the T on the
Yeah,
end.
those
Martin
like-
T. Desk.
Yeah, it doesn't look like.
Thank you for joining. I will send it to you, and I hope you find it useful. I really do. What do you do, Martin?
I'm a game developer in AI.
Really?
Developer. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, I program games in AI. I focus on AI, and right now I'm trying to expand my knowledge in ML technology so that I can improve my product quality. And yeah, I like like you say, the ChatGPT application for general mass, general public. I really focus on that part of the MML, like no-code solution to help the community close the gap between engineering and regular people.
It can help so much. My
It's
daughter.
the next generation of software. It's coming.
It is,
I think
it is.
next year, because there's gonna be a lot of solutions. It's help close the gap between engineer and regular people. They can easier program their own AI and their own assistant with a more tool coming to the market.
That's great. Well, it's great to meet you, Martin. I'm glad you joined us. Thank you.
Basketball, but it's not actually a bag, it's literally just a basketball. Like you can, it's just I'm Vince.
Sophie, nice to meet you.
I like your jacket.
Sorry, what's your name? Juju. Nice to meet you. Sorry, we didn't ask.
Yeah.
Capital Flex. Second time?
I feel like I've seen your
All different times. I was on the GPT marketplace. I was trying to find some of your GPTs. I saw the music. I saw what you're talking about. So it's cool that at least some of them are public. The one that I think the one that I had time to Right. And we, what,
That's a big one. It's like, you come here, no stress, you've already done all this. So I have a question on what would be a really great way to start creating custom GPTs. So part of the reason how I got we're about to have 5 more. I created part of that was I created a military discovery process.
Oh, yeah.
3 interviews, created kind of to get like pain
So the thought is to quickly analyze the customer needs.
Yeah, exactly, through 3 parts, and then from getting all this information, feed it back, do all of its information, exactly, all the information that was created, take all of that and put it in the
Were you in the office?
This that work.
We were in the office.
That's basically how we
He was there today.
And then obviously we report everything through AI, and through Otter, and then we basically take those notes as well, and drop that in as well, so that's like additional feedback. And your presentation literally had me thinking as well.
How'd you find out?
So part of this role is to content writing strategy, that's where I work. Today we were in the bagger office. That's really, I think, like, that's so funny. That's so cool. Yeah, I've done those things. I just listened to it. Wasn't today. Having you kind of speak for this presentation, if there was a specific way that I could additionally create a template and provide their specific info and extract the information in the same way that moderating presentation in a specific template and then use that information to Is that kind of like on brand for what you were doing, or yeah, let's do it. Yeah, that's very like we almost saw each other. Like that's literally like it is a startup. It's definitely fun, but it's very much serious.
No, it's right. No, I just.
Yeah, it's really cool.
No, he's asking.
And I want to like really add like that outside of like
but no, so
Water prompting class.
Did that help you?
Yeah, so you hear from all
Well, I kind of got that vibe from what you were saying. That's why. How do you create
It's like building a
skills done?
like every time.
What he's doing, trying to keep So,
You don't know, you don't know.
that's what I'm saying. So, if you automate all your processes faster and better, you can get through all of that. I want to talk to him more too. Well, yeah, he said he's got a meetup now. I don't know. I've never heard of that. Oh, it's the guy in the So, when your sales
But, so I would do
I
that,
read the meeting
but then
and I
you know, more than that.
put information,
Start smaller, build one.
find I
Choose
They're gonna be like,
because the
because what just happened here, you didn't know, we don't know. So you're like wandering around, wondering what's going on.
exactly.
So I would be with your sales.
a lot of administrative help and longevity. So, yeah. So the concept is essentially like you still go to a traditional
I know we don't. We've got like 2 weeks, not even 10 days.
That's why I want to get into CRM. I have a lot of things, but I don't think I have time for me. Because right now I really have to start.
No, but this is what I'm trying to understand. Is help me is what you're doing. Forget the CRM, forget all of that. I'm talking about like
What am I doing?
well, that's what I'm looking to do. That's do you have a list?
Oh, I don't believe
That's what I mean. Well, yeah, but I I need to have it.
So marketing is specific for the company.
I'm just
Okay, so you come and like sit down and look at what
But I thought that
we need to build, we need to get a big
that's kind of like
Exactly. A lot of it is also
I would have highlighted Latino led startups in healthcare. So it's specific enough that
some of the bigger guys like found out why like these markets
See, I don't know
are
anybody.
specific and better. I just kind of like come in and take the data and like take really interesting thought.
She's working with what? Russ? Give me some.
Thank you. Is there a way
All
that
right, well, let me reach out to her. I'll ask his
the idea is you do it a lot for credibility. So I just
different office.
the CEO figures on that. Right?
But like
The
they
guy,
have
they sold 60 people.
today.
The guy from Claude, they had a strategy where they wanted to share the story in Spanish. I think super happy. He loved the interview because we talked about a bunch of stuff, but so what is the tell the startup founders, it's really more the venture firms, Morgan Stanley venture fund diversity. But I'm so excited to showcase one of your startups or getting to the director of the venture let's say ABBA, all of these people have startups. So you tell the head of that, and I do the beginning. Celebrating startups that are substantial problems. We want to know if there's Latino startups that are highlight has the opportunity when we get to eat. The option of being present in the iconic printed sheets. So that's kind of like very hard. So and what we talk about is what I like first tell them what the story behind the startup.
But they seem to have
I'm trying to take all this in, but my brain's an overload. And that's why it would be better if I was yeah, but I need to record it, so I play it back over and over and over because this lingo is I got sales. I've never seen that.
Feel like it's a faster pace or a slower pace?
Just getting on a call. I'm better. Getting on a call, I stumble.
Put it this way, when I joined,
why, or sending an email, why somebody's gonna say, oh yeah, we want to talk to you in an email. To me, yeah, I know, you know what I mean?
I just want to thank you again for hosting this amazing session. You know, you guys have such great sessions that sometimes I'm Compliment, you know, I strive to come when I'm in. So I'm working on my own startup, and what we're trying to travel. Yeah, we're trying to eliminate the need for check-in luggage altogether by helping people.
Yeah, I really, I'd love to stay in touch and just share, because I've played around with just making fun autoresponders for me to get a lot of messages. And I had a friend who built a custom GPT. It was like an astrological numerology thing. It was really interesting. Yeah, it really was. It was like my first intro into custom GPTs. It was like, I was driving and I found a butterfly, and then the sun came out of the clouds, and then it was like, oh, the sun coming out of the clouds symbolizes this, and here's the numerology.
This is great
It's
because
trippy, honestly. And then I had really saw the value behind it, and then I saw the prompt that went into it.
I think that, you know, if we can basic functions of marketing using a virtual team like this, stuff saves so much.
And then obviously
you
sharing
know,
like
miscommunication, and you can have better control over your project this way in the beginning. Then when they grow, you get to certain size, it may make sense for you to then have, you know, an in-house marketing or to outsource this to a professional.
That's what I was thinking as well too. I think that's really interesting. This was
It doesn't make sense like, oh, you know,
I don't have a budget, that's like,
these agencies are 50,000,
No, I mean,
$1,000 a pop, you know, and I'm like, oh, what is it?
I need to do it for myself.
Guarantee results, because if we can't guarantee results, like, why am I paying this? You know, like, it doesn't make sense. So,
I think very evangelistic about it.
Yeah.
And so when I hear people try this.
oh, are we presented on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I completely agree. It reminds me a lot of, I read Ian's recent Horowitz, Read Right Out, and was talking about the different stages of the internet, how Web3 or crypto really is following an S-curve like Web2 was. And that the S-curve is how Web2 is basically writing, and Facebook and blogs and slowly spiked up. And that's kind of where we're at, just going to spike up.
I'm glad you used that
Yeah.
analogy, because that's, I would figure that shit. But I remember.
You're a professional.
I know.
I'm seasoned, is what you said. But, in all sincerity, it feels like that just feels more acceptable.
Yeah.
And that's why I put the credit point too. It feels a business scale. Yeah, I can rip it open rollers here. It's like,
Nerds rule the world, man. They really do.
But we're getting back to the basics of the program and learning.
Artisans in Mexico?
I hope you're on your track.
So we were doing limited.
Working on it. 25 is a pretty good. Is a pretty good plan.
Indeed. Yeah. Keep me posted. Yeah, let me know how it goes, and if I can help, I'm here.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Russ. Is this your notebook?
I think not.
Okay.
Annual agreement, we say when we're having it, what room we're gonna have it in, and then we
Talk about this further, but definitely connect with that friend of yours who
She's on my track, she's a friend of my friend, so I don't know.
Okay.
I'll get you back.
Yes, that'd be great. That would be amazing.
I have to commit to that, it'll be nice. Thank you.
I didn't give them to you. I didn't even give them any action.
That's why
Right.
that's why you're.
Like I said,
Your situation is different.
Oh, no, you're right, because I did it. You're right, so you're right, because I had a discount. Because I was already sure.
Until you literally need the, here's where you play.
But see, does that mean you can rent out the place for events?
I don't know, there were events, but I can't do
We're all in different knowledge levels.
How do I get you?
Especially people like you.
I gotta go.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, everybody else knows what's going on here, and I don't, and I'm the only one that doesn't know where to play. And it's like, no, nobody, people have different knowledge levels. No,
I'm super excited, because I'm doing everything on myself and that's what I'm doing. But
Next weekend? Yeah, Friday.
when I
I built a huge workflow on taking things like I had branding marketing.
I don't direct, I have to go to San Francisco. From San Francisco, I go to South Korea, from South Korea.
but I'm fine with
mean, I just wake up.
Oh, you do?
I will see it's a range on it. So, I don't even feel it.
But I
If you have this,
need to very fun.
Did you get the video?
How can you go?
Yeah, and
What video?
that's,
The video.
if you're honest, I mean, I look back and forth between them both,
Oh, yeah.
to be honest with you. Because they're good at different things, if I'm doing longer form content,
I'm all over.
or, you know, we're talking about next window, Claude can handle a little more, and, you know, that's good, I can't do it, so I guess, to be honest, but going back and forth between the two for different pieces, especially written content, you know, for what it's.
I mean, this is frustrating, but it's confusing, because when I.
Well, I mean,
Is there something like that?
right, because if it's frustrating, you may find a way to make it less so, and you may also find what's going to be needed. But that also gets down to the value of play, because if you sit there going, I'm on deadline, I'm gonna get this cranked out, I know it's hard to get a job, so I know that. But,
So, no, what I,
let me know how it goes.
so he's talking about Meetup, he's talking about this, he's talking about that. We're
Then now, before we get
It's
to,
like he's, everything's
See you,
lost
Russ.
in terms of translation. Yeah, I'll talk to you about Russ again, sorry. I'm gonna reach out to you again, if you don't mind, and then we'll have more of an interaction. I have more questions to ask you, maybe you can send me the presentation.
sure, I will.
And there's a video too, I'll share you the link.
Wait, thank you.
So, like, what I'm saying is she had no idea about custom GPTs, and he's talking, and it's just like, so he's got a different situation than I have, and I'm trying to understand, and we're like lost in translation, he and I. So, he and I are lost in translation. She was lost in translation because she didn't know what custom GPTs were. So, right. So if you don't, if my own experience is different than somebody else's experience, and we're trying to talk, and then we don't understand each other. Does that make sense?
it doesn't, but it happens.
So, no. It happens all the time. It
I know.
happens like daily. That's why I'm asking you these pointed questions to understand why your experience is different than my experience of what I'm having with my Meetup, and and why I don't know about your Meetup. Well, this makes sense, because it's a whole different.
So I suppose we just have different situations.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that's what you said. You had a Meetup here, and it's.
Yeah, because like I go,
automation,
because like I let the staff know, like, I'm not gonna be here all the time, but I still have my Meetup, and I have this community online, so then I'll have everyone go online instead. It's like my situation is just different than yours.
Yeah, okay. No, well, I'm gonna walk out with you,
Okay.
real quick. Let me just grab my stuff, sorry. Yeah, okay, now, so let's keep in contact, because you have a lot of knowledge, and maybe you
Yeah,
can.
go through my content.
Maybe you could speak at my Meetup.
Sure, you should go through my content.
Yeah, I will when I have
You will find something you like, I promise.
On the school one?
No, just on my LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when you look at my
I
profile,
need to see, cut clean.
it looks great.
No, it doesn't, it's not perfect. There's some. All right, I'm coming, Sam.